Good afternoon, Santa Clarita, and everyone streaming in from around the world. My name is Sharon Brubaker. I'm a certified grief recovery specialist. I have a special guest here and friend and mentor and hero, Alex Urbina, transformational coach. You are listening to us live from KHTS, our hometown station. Just want to let everybody know we are Facebook Live, so please feel free to join in there. Drop us some love in that Facebook. We'd love to know if you have any questions. We'd love to get to those answers as quickly as possible. If you are listening to this program, there's a high probability that your heart is broken. It could either be recent or long ago. It could be a death or from a divorce. Regardless of the cause of your broken heart, we do not know how you feel, but we know that it is painful. And we hope that we can give you some answers to starting your journey and continuing on that journey today. And our hearts are definitely with you. Thank you for listening in. Hey, Alex, today I was thinking about you and I met way back in October. And we came together from the Las Vegas shootings. And I reached out to Jerry here at the radio after I saw the community outreach going on for all of the victims of the shooting that were shot or experienced that terrible tragedy on October 1st. We now know that 58 people died, and there were so many of our community members that came back from that. And that's where you and I kind of started our journey together. So this Saturday, I was walking out the bedroom and the news was on, and I just heard a blip of a story of an update on the Las Vegas shootings, basically telling where the investigation was at this point. And my heart absolutely dropped. And it dropped because I feel that you and I together have experienced a Las Vegas experience by all the interviews that we've done, number one. And number two, because we have so many close friends now that have a terrible experience because of that, and we're helping them through that experience, right? So my heart dropped because I thought the ones that haven't done anything about that pain, the ones that are just holding on to the pain or living in the midst of, for example, keeping busy, when these stories start to come up, and they are going to start to come up, they're going to start reliving that experience all over again. And so I really wanted today's show to be around really concentrating on that and just kind of reminding people what grief is, what it feels like, and what we can do to help them.
Absolutely. What I'm learning from you is that, apparently we've gone through tragedies before in our past since we were little, right?
Yeah.
And if we haven't fully experienced our experiences, we at some point either suppress them or ignored them or pretend that it doesn't hurt or whatever we're doing, but we're not giving ourselves permission to actually go through it or complete it, as you say.
Yes.
And so we're really kind of re-traumatizing ourselves anyways by not learning about the natural process called healing.
Yes.
And so whether it's we're being, reopening this wound one more time because the stories are coming out again or not, if we still have unresolved issues from our past that, there's 30 or 40 of them that we haven't really addressed or ignored, then we're going to experience it anyways. So why not learn about it now, especially if you're just tuning in and wondering why you're listening to this show? Because sometimes we can be listening to certain programs and not know why we're listening until later on we go, oh, maybe there was a reason why I was listening to that show.
Right. So we're here to say this is for you. So yes, absolutely. Grief is cumulative, and it's cumulatively negative. And so what that means is the grief, we can push it down so far. We can push it down and almost act like it's not even there.
Let's start with what is grief. Because I love what you're saying. I'm just thinking of the new person that's tuning in.
Yes.
They don't even know what grief is. So how do you define grief?
Awesome. Perfect. Grief is a normal and natural reaction to a loss of any kind.
Now, loss of any kind, not just
loss
the
of any
3
kind.
or 4 kinds of losses that most of us know or are more familiar with. You're saying be open to the possibility there could be 30 to 40 different kinds of losses, but we're only conditioned ourselves to really identify maybe 4 or 5 of them, right?
Absolutely. And that's why I think it's so unnatural to associate grief with this tragic shooting of the survivors in from Vegas. I think that's why we have a hard time, because we have been conditioned by society to believe that grief is for you grieve when someone dies. What about when we go through that loss? We absolutely go through a loss. Our heart is broken. Grief is a broken heart. It is not a broken head. Your head does not need to be fixed. You do not need repair on your head. You need to go after what's broken in your heart, what you lost. You and I have talked about this a lot. So what we think that happened in Vegas through the survivors is a loss of security, a loss of safety, a loss of trust, a loss of knowing that just everything was going to be okay.
A loss of innocence.
A loss of innocence.
Right? Because if you have been living your life going to a certain place, trusting and feeling secure and being playful and innocently playful in a place where you don't expect to be harmed, and all of a sudden this terror rains down upon you, it kind of totally shatters this whole belief system that we have called certain places are safe.
Yes.
And they're not.
Yes. And the thing about grief, and I think the reason that it's hard for us to accept it sometimes, is because we've never been taught how to deal with it. We were never taught. We're not raised where our moms and dads sit us at the kitchen table and say, okay, Johnny, this is grief. This is what it's going to feel like. And this is how you're going to deal with it. Instead, we watch our parents in the very first grieving experience that we've had. Sometimes for smaller children, that could be someone stolen your bike. Your pet dies is usually a child's first experience with loss, right? Your pet dies. A friend bullies you at school. And what happens is our parents give us advice based on the advice that they were always given, that was always given to them. So you come home and you tell mom, hey, this kid at school was really bothering me. And she tells you, oh, don't worry about that. Don't feel bad. Tomorrow's a new day. You'll have new friends tomorrow. You can make a new friend tomorrow. You don't have to be friends with him. And so we take those experiences that we've learned in our childhood and we associate them and attach them to the healing process. And we think that these are going to help us through. Right.
Rather than being taught or learning a new way to interact with our kids and learning how to be more of a facilitator.
Right.
To help them understand what they're feeling, why they're feeling it, and just kind of learn how to ask these open-ended questions to your son or daughter to walk through the process and helping them make sense of what the experience was and why was it and what they learned from it and what to do next. And I think that as human beings, we don't go to classes or trainings. It's definitely not in our schools to teach us how to facilitate conversations and healing people or helping them along that process.
Right. Just thinking of that, going back to the schools, I often wonder how awesome would it be if we taught grief in school? How often would it be if we taught transformation in school? Literally giving them the tools that they need to process, right? So in one of the programs
in my school, the one that I'm set up to create probably in the next 2 to 3 years, it's going to be a leadership academy.
Right.
And you bet that there's going to be grief in that, because this is all the emotional intelligence that our kids are lacking in today's world.
Right.
That they're not learning how to be compassionate. They're not what they're learning to do is to numb out.
Yes.
And be emotionless and be robotic, and they're numb, cold, and a lot of them aren't living. They're not alive inside. They might be alive and stimulated up in their brain, but that's zombie-like. There's so much more to us as human beings. We're 3-part beings, mind, body, and spirit. And when you start shutting down that emotional intelligence, you slowly are shutting off a beautiful gift that you have, like a light that shines inside of you. And there's nothing more heartbreaking than to see a 14 or 15-year-old kid that has no light anymore.
Right.
And then they're just going to continue to go on to be, adults trying their best to be creating extraordinary relationships, and they're going to be failing miserably because they never healed from some of this trauma that they've had.
We also have tools that we use to avoid. So, and I'm thinking about these kids. That's what made me think of that is think about social media. Think about every kid with their head down in one thing, that phone. Mm-hmm. It's so easy for them to avoid, and it's so easy for them not to tune in. But they also, unfortunately, see their parents do this too, right? So we see the parents turning to alcohol, social media, grieving alone, just going in the room and closing the door, not talking about it. So it really helps as a grief recovery specialist if I can start, for me and my aspect, to start with the parents. If I can help the parents understand it's your responsibility to teach these children, but then you also, number one, first you have to understand what you're going through yourself. Let's start with that area and the areas that you, and things that you are doing to avoid. What things are you doing to avoid this pain and this grief? And you're absolutely teaching it to your children.
And we're doing it but just by modeling it.
Yeah.
You know, if we were raised to not really talk about our emotions, then, 95% of your parenting unconsciously is going to be teaching your kids to not talk about their emotions, not by what you're saying, just by how you're showing up.
Yeah.
But through your modeling.
Absolutely.
You're sending that same message because your sons and daughters are looking up at you, watching how are you interacting with your grief and with your loss and with your pain. And they're, as much as you tell them for them to experience their experiences, if they're watching you do the opposite, they're doing exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. I often tell a story about my very first experience with a loss. I was 14 years old, and my aunt passed away from a brain aneurysm. And, I don't blame my parents. I don't. And I've done some of the same stuff to my children. But my parents stayed for about 3 days with my dad. It was my dad's brother and his wife. And they stayed there for about 3 days because it was such a shock. And we're so numb. And we, the kids, my brother was 16, I was 14, we stayed at home at the time, and my parents were either in the hospital or at their house. They never came home and said, and, it was just an oversight. This is what happened. Let's talk about it. They just did what they thought was the normal thing to do, which is quote unquote, be strong. My parents were being strong for my uncle and for his kids.
But also for you, they were probably wrapping it up in a package called Let's Protect Our Kids.
Let's protect our kids.
From the hurt and from
pain.
the pain, from all those icky feelings that we've decided that we don't like.
Right.
Or we don't want, or that they're not good for us.
Right.
Rather than trusting that those experiences are natural and they're healing.
Right.
And they can be a beautiful experience if you were born and raised in an environment or a society that viewed it like that.
I love to hear you say that because I feel like sometimes I can't say that it can be a beautiful experience. It is absolutely awful. It's absolutely painful. But if you know the right way to do it and it's done properly, it absolutely can be a beautiful experience. I absolutely do not blame my parents, but I also remember from that event getting in a huge fight with my brother. Now, looking back on it and knowing what I know now, my heart was broken. I was sad. I didn't know what to do with this pain. And then it started a fight with him and I. And, they eventually came and we went through the funeral and all of that. But it's an experience that I will carry for the rest of my life as what I teach in my class now, what not to do for your children. And just think about, had it been a little bit different. Let's relive that scenario. Let me redo that scenario. My aunt passes away. My parents my dad kisses his brother. He gets in the car. He comes to our house and he sits us at the kitchen table and he says, your aunt has passed away. Let's talk about it. Or my dad just says, my heart is really hurting. I really am going to miss her. I remember when she came to our house and she cooked dinner last Sunday and how much fun we had. And then my dad just shuts his mouth and allows me and my brothers and sisters to share our own personal story. How much different would that have been?
Absolutely. It would have created an environment for you and your siblings to create a different belief around loss.
Yeah.
It would have created an opening for you to decide that loss of a loved one isn't as I'm not going to say hurtful, but it isn't as negative as and not wanted as the next experience of joy and passion and excitement. What if we decided that all the experiences that we're having, whether they're good or bad, and I don't like to use the word good or bad, but it seems to be what most of us unconsciously do to our feelings. We decide what's good and what's bad.
Of course.
We judge them instead of just looking at all of them as either neutral or that they're all beautiful, or that they're all just an experience to teach us something.
Right.
And I'm the firm believer of every time that I am feeling something that's hurtful or painful, I always stop and ask myself, what is this pain about?
Yeah.
And most of the time when I'm feeling pain of the loss of someone, it's to remind me that I'm a loving human being.
Yes.
When I lose somebody, that hurt, that part where it feels like there's someone grabbing your heart and squeezing it.
Yeah.
That's to remind me that I love that person so much that it hurts.
Yes.
Which now opens the possibility that pain equals love.
Yes.
And if you've ever lost someone that you love so deeply that it hurts so much that you stop and you go, wait a minute, is this pain or is this love that I'm feeling?
I definitely believe
Right?
that it is a result of the love. Absolutely.
To me, they're both the same, because I'm starting to learn how to create a new relationship with pain. And when you're open to that the pain hurts only because I love someone so deeply, now that pain becomes love for me. Because if I didn't love you and you were taken away from this earth, I might be sad, but I'm not going to have that deep, like, gut-wrenching pain because I wasn't connected to you and I hadn't developed that deep kind of love for you.
Absolutely. Now, within that pain and within that love, sometimes is incomplete communication. What happens when we have incomplete communication? I said sometimes, but it's almost every time. So I didn't get to tell my aunt how much she meant to me before she left. I didn't get a chance to tell her how much I loved her. When I was 14, I was in a wedding and she took me to the mall and we spent the entire day at the mall shopping. I never got a chance to thank her for that shopping experience that I had. So sometimes in that love, in our heart, that's so painful is incomplete communication. Complete communication of lost dreams, hopes, and expectations, just things that I need to tell you. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it could be about a fight, or we had a fight, a disagreement, or we never did agree on this, or, it could be anything.
But this is where the guilt comes in, where we start to assign guilt to ourselves unfairly, and you'll tell us why in a few minutes.
Yes.
But we'll assign this guilt to ourselves because we're looking back realizing I don't have that opportunity anymore to thank you for, or to communicate those things that I should have had the courage back when you were alive to say those things to you, and I never did.
Absolutely.
So tell us why we put this guilt upon ourselves when it's unwarranted.
So we put the guilt upon ourselves, and this is the best way that I can describe it. We use the word guilt like an umbrella of emotion. So instead of coming to the whole emotions, we got this one word, and it's this great word, and we're going to call it guilt because that's what we think we're feeling. So you say to me, Sharon, I say, Alex, I really feel guilty. My aunt died, and I didn't get a chance to tell her goodbye. And then you would ask me, well, did you, because the definition of guilt is with an intent to deceive or do harm. Sharon, did you intend to deceive or do harm to her at all? And I would have to look at you and say, no. Then that's not the emotion you're feeling. Let me take that emotion from you. Sharon, let's swap it out. What emotion are you feeling? My heart is absolutely breaking. I'm sad. I feel like I can't breathe. I'm heartbroken that she's gone. That's the truth. If we're going to tell the truth about ourselves, then that's the absolute truth. I know we're getting ready to take a break, and I want to come back and talk more about this word guilt that we have, because so many people are used to using it, and they're so used to attaching it to other things that I want them to really understand what that definition is.
It's almost automatic in our unconsciousness to want to grab onto this thing called guilt and own it when we're taught and we're learning that it's the wrong feeling to grab onto.
Right.
And when we learn to grab onto the right one, then it frees us up to be able to grieve in a healthy way.
Absolutely. Okay, Santa Clarita, stay tuned. We're going to be back in just a minute, and we're going to pick up where we left off with guilt.
Why do people from all over Santa Clarita come to our spa in Canyon Country? Simple. They want the highest quality services at prices that everyone can afford. This is Rosemary from Beyond Harmony Med Spa. Read our reviews and know why we won the Ultimate Beauty Awards 2 years in a row by the readers of Elite magazine. Come and see how close we really are and experience the level of excellence that our clients have loved for the past 13 years. Go to beyondharmony.com or call 298-8008 today for a free consultation.
It's no wonder people love Baskin-Robbins, as it's known for its 31 flavors of ice cream. From ages 1 to 99, people visit Baskin-Robbins anticipating the pleasure of enjoying their favorite ice cream, served any way they want. They also create customized cakes for any occasion. With several locations in Santa Clarita, you're sure to find America's favorite neighborhood ice cream shop near you. Visit them in Steventon Ranch on the Old Road, on Soledad in Canyon Country, or on Lyons in Newhall.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Title Boxing Club is here in Santa Clarita. We're fast-paced, action-packed, and addictive. We've got music pumping and energy flowing. Come out to the Title Boxing Club and embrace your inner power and sweat it out at Santa Clarita's best workout spot for you and your entire family. Join us for your first shot-free class at the Title Boxing Club on Bouquet Canyon and Newhall Ranch Road.
It's like no other station I've ever listened to. It's great.
Your hometown station.
Hello, Santa Clarita. Welcome back to KHTS, your hometown station. I'm Sharon Brubaker, certified grief recovery specialist, along with Alex Urbina, transformational coach. Today we're talking through a special broadcast called Grief and Loss, Healing from Within. Right before the break, we were talking about guilt. Alex and I were talking about guilt. That is an umbrella of emotion that we feel many people will attach to their broken heart because they think that this is what they're feeling. If I didn't get a chance to say the things I need to say to my loved one, if I didn't get a chance to do the things I needed to do, I'm going to attach guilt to it. Mostly because, Alex, I believe that even as adults, we're not taught to use those emotion words and attach the emotional words and feelings to what we're actually feeling in our heart.
Absolutely. I ask people all the time, how do you feel about that? You know what people say? Fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell people that those aren't feelings.
Those are lies.
Well, they're words that we use because we weren't taught what feelings are. We were not taught about different ways of being: loving, caring, compassionate, happy, joyful, excited, nervous, sad,
heartbroken.
We've never gone to school to learn these distinctions called emotions and feelings, and so we don't know how to accurately identify them. So when you're talking about we just assign guilt to something, sometimes we're doing it and then we're assigning it unfairly, and then we're actually paying the price because of it. Yeah. We're lingering around, holding on to this guilt and everything that comes with it, right? Like the shame that comes with it, and we're going through this whole process of carrying it around so heavily when it just takes a grief recovery specialist or someone else to go, why did you assign that? And did you assign it to yourself in a fair way? And when you really think about it, you go, I guess maybe no, I don't really feel like that. I just feel heartbroken. Then it can free you up to go, oh my God. Then from heartbroken, I can allow myself to just not continue to beat myself up for feeling guilty for something that I didn't purposely intend to do in the first place.
And we have to go inside. We have to internalize what that is. So step one is really internalizing that there is something that's left unsaid or unresolved communication. That's right there, right? So it almost feels like a heartstring, like you're walking down the street and you think about that person. I call it a heartstring. You feel that twinge. It pulls on your heart. It's connected to your heart. That heartstring needs to be worked on, whatever that is. And so the first step is to admit that it's there, know that it's there, and then go within ourselves. And we do the work that's left unfinished in our heart, that is incomplete communication or incomplete in our heart, so that we can be free. It is not about you, Alex, and it's not about the other person. We do the work for ourselves. We do the work that's left unfinished in our heart because we're the only one that is experiencing that incomplete communication.
So we got you asked earlier in the show for people to, you invited them to communicate to us on social media. We have a lady by the name of Marcy who shared on social media that she's sitting there at wherever the spot she's at crying because of the loss of her son. And what would you want to say to Marcy in that moment as she's acknowledging that she obviously turned this radio program on, not by accident, right?
Yeah.
But to be able to heal her heart. So what can you say to support her in this process of, dealing with the loss of her son?
Marcy, my heart is breaking. I absolutely have no idea what you're going through. I really don't. But if you were here, I would absolutely give you a hug. Thank you for reaching out right now. Absolutely, thank you for reaching out. I think the first thing that's so important, and I'm not sure when her son died, but it really is to talk about it. It really is to talk to friends and neighbors, wherever we can get that relief at first, right? My experience has been that we go through this numbness and we're not really sure where to go for the help. But once you're ready, it is absolutely going with inside yourself and reviewing your relationship with your son and completing that relationship for whatever it is. And Alex and myself, we're all here to help you and just so happy that you reached out.
What I think of is, if I lost my son, my heart wouldn't just be broken, it would be devastated, it'd be shattered. Yeah. And I would have to figure out how to pick those pieces up one at a time and put them back together. And I would hope that there would be a group of people or a community of people that are versed and experienced in the healing and the grief and the loss that I can go to.
Yes.
And sit down and know that you're sitting across from me, that you are wholeheartedly willing to listen to me and to help me, through this process, and that you're compassionate and you're a caring human being with the right context to be able to kind of let me create the safe space for me to open up and share.
Yes.
Because what I'm learning now a little bit more day by day about grief is that it's a process. And in that process, or in that opening, we'll call it an opening.
Yes.
For me to, like you said, complete that relationship and as well as share with other people the heartbreak, as well as remembering how much I loved the person who just passed.
Right.
And having you be a witness to me. Like, if I love someone so deeply, it doesn't become real until I share that love with someone else.
Yeah.
Right? It's like if I have all this love for my son and I don't share it with anyone, it's like only I know about it.
Yeah.
But if I sit there and I tell you how much I love my son and what an amazing young man he is and all this stuff, and I see your face light up, I've brought him to life, as well as I've given myself an opportunity to let some of the healing process continue because you were willing to be a witness to me sharing how much I love with you.
Yeah. And there's not, grief is unique and individual to each and every person. So my grief and my loss is different than Marcy's. I grieved the loss of my nephew. Marcy's grieving the loss of her son. I absolutely do not know what Marcy is going through right now. But I do know that I have the words and the wisdom to help her and guide her through that process, right?
But you do know what it's like to have a broken heart.
I do know what it's like to have a broken heart, absolutely. So, for example, what recovery will feel like, okay, I want to talk about what recovery would feel like. It means to be able to talk about her son and have the fond memories return. to complete a relationship. I mean, fond memories will be returned. She'll be able to talk about him. Her heart won't be in so much pain all the time. That broken heart you were experiencing, like someone just stabbed your heart with a knife, being in the right place removes the knife from your heart. And it gives you that chance to absolutely be able to breathe. You're absolutely breathing. Your life is forever changed. It will never be the way that it was. It is forever changed.
Yeah. And I also got to be open to the possibility that I might not ever get to the stage where I can talk about him or the stories without ever feeling the pain, like it's gone. Like, like my dad passed away. There's sometimes that I talk about him and I still go back to the crying and the emotions and that hurt. But I've learned to create a new relationship about that feeling.
Yeah.
Now I feel when that starts to come up and I start to cry and I start to get emotional and I can watch everyone's face like they don't know how to deal with it. I let them know that this feeling that I'm feeling is a feeling that I'm bringing forth, that I'm embracing it, and that I'm choosing to experience this because it's reminding me how much I love and miss my father.
So for me...
And then when I say that to people, they go, oh,
yeah.
Wow, I want to miss a loved one the way that you do, because it's all the bad stuff is gone. Like I've released all of the unhealthiness to grieving, and I've replaced it with that it's a beautiful experience. Even though to most people it looks like I'm struggling or I'm suffering or, that the pain is negatively affecting me, and it's not. It's a beautiful moment that I'm being reminded how much I love and miss this beautiful man that I was blessed to have in my life.
Yes. I agree with you. In June of this past year, in 2017, I lost my very best friend of 15 years. Her name was Sharon also. And we were inseparable. She called us Sharon Squared all the time. And we talked on the phone every single day. I mean, I've never had a friend like her. I have never had a friend. She knew everything about me. I knew everything about her. And in April, she was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor. And on June 26th, she passed away. And my experience this year, Alex, was on the new year, I was really missing her. And I actually started to cry because I was really missing her. And part of it, what came up was that I didn't want to go into 2018 without her. It was almost like I wanted to put a break, put my hand out and say, no, I'm not going into 2018 without her. But there was this moment where I actually sat and I was actually searching my heart to try and see if there was pain there. Because I have gone through my grieving process with her. There is no pain. There is absolutely no pain. My tears were just missing her. And that will never go away. That part will never go away. But the pain of the loss, the absolute heartbreak is gone. It's not there. And I can talk about Sharon. I actually talk quite often about her. I talk about her. I share my relationship with her. I'm sitting here talking about her right now. I love her. She was an amazing woman. And that sort of is exactly what recovery feels like. You can absolutely talk about them. Do I cry all the time? No. Do I have tears sometimes? Yes, absolutely. But the tears are also as an outward sign of our love for them, right?
Right.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
There.
It's like when you're experiencing that love and that and the emotions coming out. It's almost like I'm consciously choosing to experience this.
Yes.
Rather than it just unconsciously, it's just happening on its own. It's coming out because I might still have some unresolved issues or incompleteness that I haven't gone through in that process.
Right. And so sometimes people don't know whether they're experiencing grief or not, right? So they may have not be able to attach it to, let's say, a recent death or a divorce, right? So if you're unwilling to talk about a loss that has occurred in your life, it's probably a grieving experience. So if you're just not wanting to talk about it, if you avoid any loved ones that may be associated with that because you don't want to talk to them either, it's probably a grieving experience.
Why? Because you're afraid for it to
come up,
to trigger something to come up.
To trigger it. I'm going to go all around this subject, but I'm not going to talk about this one subject. If you avoid going to places or events because they remind you of an incident or someone, that's probably a grieving experience. If all you do is talk about that person or that experience in a negative or a positive way, it could be a grieving experience. You've probably met this person before. It's probably someone who's gone through a divorce, and all they do is talk about what a dog their spouse was over and over and over again. It's almost like no matter what you do, they can't get off that subject.
Oh, we call it a broken record.
Yes.
And a transformation. It's a
Yeah.
broken record. And what it is, and a lot of what I do as a life coach is to help you complete some of your relationships,
Right.
so such that it frees you up to get moving forward,
Right.
and moving, being in the present moment and moving forward with your life in a certain way,
Right.
And a lot of times people don't want to get off of it.
Yes.
They don't want to surrender it.
Yes.
And they want to keep going back to it and coming back to it. And so as a coach, my job is to keep reminding them of what they're doing.
Yes.
Or at least pointing it out to them.
Yeah.
So they can go, oh, I didn't realize that I was doing that. You know what I mean? I get to be that, because your friends, a lot of your friends won't tell you like, again,
Or they don't want to hear it. But here's the other thing.
But your coach will. Your coach will go, are we really talking this again? I thought the last 2 times I asked you if you forgave them and you said you did. And now you keep bringing it back up. Well, I guess I didn't really forgive them, so.
Sometimes because there's underlying issues or areas that they haven't dealt with in that aspect of it. But if you're not willing to talk about it because we don't want to be there, if you're only talking about it, if you keep the same exact routine day in and day out, so you don't have to go down a certain road. I don't want to go down that road because it reminds me of the day we had the fight, or I don't want to go here because it reminds me of that. You're definitely avoiding. So what happens when we absolutely review the relationship, we go and we look at the relationship thoroughly. We do an inventory. We do an inventory in our heart of our relationship to that grief or that loss of what's in our heart. And we absolutely lay it out. Here's the areas that I absolutely have not completed there.
Now, I'm a firm believer that the only way out is through. And we can duck and avoid and not want to look at it, I think, for years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of avoiding talking about and getting through that grieving process in a healthy way, all because either someone hasn't painted a beautiful picture for us to grab onto, or open up a new perspective for us to look at it that way and go, okay, since you say it like that, maybe I'm willing to try it. And so what we do is we just keep convincing ourselves that I don't have what it takes to get through that. I'm not strong enough, or whatever fears and doubts we have that keeps us so planted in avoiding going down that road. Why is it that we as human beings can go 40, 50 years of not wanting to just kind of dive into it and go through that process?
Because we've been taught that, Alex. We've been taught that time heals. We have been taught, oh, honey, just give it time. Baby, you'll feel better.
So the time heals concept
will heals, and
is
so
what keeps
we
us
wait.
in that. It keeps us in that hamster wheel.
So we wait, and we wait. But how much time does it take? 50 days, 100 days, a year, 2 years? So we wait. We sit and we wait because we've been told that time heals. We've also been told, I know you've heard this one, we don't speak ill will of the dead, which sometimes is interpreted, we don't speak of the dead, so then we never talk about them.
I think that one is wrapped up in some religions too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Which can actually, if that's a part of certain religions, that's an actual belief that you're supposed to believe and honor and practice.
Yes.
Which can actually keep you stuck in the grief.
Absolutely. A few sentences back, you and I were talking about repeating that story over and over again, and where friends don't want to tell you, hey, I've heard that story already, or they don't tell you the truth. Like, hey, maybe you need to get some help for that. You keep bringing it up. What happens when the friends don't want to hear the story and they cut you off from that story? So you start telling the story, and then they're like, yeah, did you see the Saints game this weekend? They immediately change the story because they don't want to hear it anymore. They don't want to be that safe place for you. They're not the heart with ears that's absolutely there to listen. So consequently, what happens from that is we start to have this Academy Award winning behaviors, and we walk around and we're the best at this. We human beings are the best at this. We act recovered when we're actually not recovered. So we stop talking about it. We stop talking about the grief. We stop talking about the pain. We stop talking about how much we miss her and how much it hurts because we don't feel that there's a safe place to still have that conversation. The other thing that happens, and you and I talk about this a lot, is sometimes we put on the crown of, I am the survivor, or I am the woman whose nephew has died, and I wear this crown proudly, and everywhere I go, all I do is tell everyone, and I associate myself that way.
Yeah, and crown symbolizing that you just took on a new identity.
Yes.
And this is common for people that really don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I'm talking about 80% of the population. We don't know who we really are. We're still trying to figure out who I am and what my purpose is, and trying to, figure out what I'm about. And all of a sudden you have this tragedy, and if you're a survivor, now you can be the survivor of X.
Yes.
And own that and wear that as your identity, when that's not who you are. It's just an experience that you've gone through, but don't own it like it's something to put on display. Acknowledge that you went through the experience, find the learning lesson, be grateful for it, and then move on to something greater than, something that you can create a legacy to leave behind when you die.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In just a second here, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I want to get more into the survivor, because I want to talk about sometimes how addicting the attention can be when we have a loss, and the people around us and how much attention they bring to that situation. So I'd like everybody to stay tuned. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station. You're listening to a special broadcast called Grief and Healing from Loss with Sharon and Alex. Thank you.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top-quality musicals and plays. Located in Old Town Newhall, the CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go to canyontheater.org.
If you're tired of your nail polish chipping a day or two after an expensive manicure, then you'll love the gel nail polish manicure now offered by Ann. Ann is a licensed manicure serving the Santa Clarita Valley in Canyon Country for over 15 years. And now she's offering the gel manicure that lasts without chipping for up to 2 weeks. Log on to hometownstation.com for details on how to get an amazing deal on gel nails by Ann on Restaurant Row, or call Ann at 250-8340.
There are many memorable restaurants in Santa Clarita, but 3 words stand out from the crowd. Mom can cook.
Mamá puede cocinar.
Mom can cook the best Thai food on this side of the planet.
Mama fait la cuisine.
No matter what language you use, Mom Can Cook says it all. Thai food at its finest, all your favorite dishes and Mom's very own original specialties. Experience it on Soledad by the Canyon Country Post Office.
Mama 요리가 좋으세요?
Mom Can Cook.
Whether it's getting your degree, brushing up on your skills to get to the next level at work, or taking free college courses while in high school, College of the Canyons wants you to start your finish. COC offers classes in Valencia, Canyon Country, and online. Registration is going on now for the spring semester, which begins February 5th. Whatever your goals, COC can get you there. Visit canyons.edu today.
Welcome back, everyone, from Santa Clarita and everyone listening from around the world. You have tuned back into Sharon and Alex with KHTS, your hometown station. We are bringing to you today a special broadcast, Grief and Loss, Healing from a Broken Heart. Prior to the break, Alex and I were discussing the survivor's crown that some people can wear. Some people can absolutely become the identity of their loss.
Mm-hmm.
They take on that loss as their new identity. And you and I were discussing how that can happen with certain people over time. And you and I have seen it within our own relationship here and just people that we've met over the last few months. I had a discussion with my sister, and Erica has lost 2 boys. She lost her first son in 2006 and her second son in 2015. And one day, she and I were discussing, we're both grief recovery specialists, and we both travel around and help people with their loss and grief. And she and I were discussing how people can get stuck in that grief, and they can absolutely wear it as a crown. And she said to me, and this was her experience, not mine, she said, it is so addicting, the amount of attention that's brought to you from losing a child, number one. Mm-hmm. So think about it this way. The community comes in. Your family comes in. People are bringing you meals. People are calling you every day, checking on you. People want you to come and talk about your loss after time has gone. They start reaching out to you when they realize another friend has had a loss because they think you can help that friend. The amount of gifts that people bring to you because people don't know what to do. So the community starts lavishing you with these gifts, or even at that time, money was even flowing in just to help out with the funeral expenses, but it continued. We don't know what to do, so let me write a check. That will make me feel better and hopefully make them feel better. So this I'm only describing Austin's death. These are things that I saw at that time. Go past 10 years and have a second child die, multiply that by 1,000. Now, at Austin's funeral, I would say there were probably 800 people there. And at Donovan's funeral, I would say there was easily 1,200 people there. So people flew in from all over the world to attend his funeral. They have been there. They're calling her every day. But she said, Sharon, it was so crazy. It's almost like this attention that you're getting, it can become like a drug. It can almost become like a drug. And that was her experience. And it was so cool to hear her describe that to me. Like, you really have to make a conscious effort to do your grief work and do what you need to do so you're not grabbing onto that.
And that's why I said specifically, if you don't know who you are at that timing of that grief and that loss and getting that attention that comes afterwards, you might not know how to handle that in a powerful way. And so if you have this empty hole inside, or you don't know who you are, and you start getting all this attention, that becomes an extraordinary feeling.
Yes.
Your empty void inside starts to be filled externally.
Yes.
But you and I both know that you don't feel that empty void from external things. You feel that from within yourself internally. Then because if you start getting used to now getting that attention and that fulfillment from external things, when it starts to die out and the media stops calling you and people start asking you how you're doing, now what happens? You crash.
Absolutely.
And then you're lost, and then you're back down in the dumps again, and you're figuring out, you're wondering what happened. Where did everybody go?
Right.
That high was so amazing. I was being, interviewed left and right, and people were pouring gifts and calling me every night and bringing me things, and so I mean, your life literally went through a roller coaster ride, and you're off the ride now, sitting in the parking lot, lights are off, all the cars are gone, and it's you sitting there going, what just happened?
Right.
And that might have been a 6-month ride or a 2-year ride, but now where are you left? You're left sitting there trying to figure out where to go next.
And I want to clear this up because I don't want hate mail or emails, but I have to say this.
So they're going to send them to me now that you said that.
You send everything to Alex. This is absolutely an experience, and I'm telling you, please, if you're hearing me right now, accept those gifts, accept that love. Absolutely, you need that love and that care from the community, from your family and your friends to help you get through the initial days of this.
Yeah, what we're not saying is
keep an open mind
that's
about
a bad
it.
thing. It's be mindful of not letting that empty void inside you be fulfilled from those things. You should still be doing the internal work and working with somebody that is helping you through the process of the grief at the same time, so that when the roller coaster ride is over, you're completing now, or you're at the back end of your grief, and you're kind of processing that so that they meet up at the same time. In other words, don't hang on to all the stuff externally, and then having that be more important than you healing.
Yes.
Because what will happen is when the ride's over, the healing wouldn't have been caught up to the end of the ride. You have to be doing both. You have to be doing the healing and accepting the beautiful gifts that your community is rallying around at the same time. It's a both process. It's not an and or.
Absolutely.
Because you will be sitting there wondering what happened.
I agree. Because without the community and your family and friends, you're really never going to cross over the hump. And then going back to what you also said, eventually one day it's like all of a sudden it just stops. And it just goes away, and the calls just slow down, and the people aren't coming to check on you anymore.
Unless you're Sharon Brubaker, everyone's calling you.
Yeah,
even on the radio show.
Even on the radio. Thank you, Lauren. And so eventually it'll just slow down. It just goes away, and people, they go back to their life.
Absolutely.
It's not their fault. We can't blame them. They have husbands to feed and children to get ready for school. People go back to their life. It's not that they don't think about you. Even just the story we started the show off with, the Las Vegas show. I saw that blurb on Saturday, but people aren't really talking about Vegas right now. We're talking about all the other things that are in the news, all the other hurt and pain that we're dealing. They move on. And what happens is when that slows down, you're really left with this broken heart, and that pain can sometimes feel unbearable.
So what if there are people still brokenhearted? They're either stuck in the grief process from Vegas, or or they were going through the process of pretending that everything was okay, and now as the media starts going over some of this stuff, or we're going to hit a year, right?
Yeah.
Coming up around the corner before you know it. And you're going to start seeing the images again and the news stories. And that might even...
A year in review. Where are they right now?
That might
How's your
trigger
life
some
been
things
this
from people
last
too.
year? And I went online and just to check up on people and see what was out there. There are stories about people that didn't have insurance at the time that got hurt really bad. People that have lost their jobs. Those are all those stories, Alex, that we're not talking about. We're literally not talking about their experience of what people are their broken hearts of what they're going through. Their hearts are absolutely broken. They're out there. They're going through that. And we're not talking about, we don't know what it is. But what I can tell you is that we are here for you. We're here to help you through this process. You absolutely need a guide. Do not try to do this alone. Absolutely do not try to do this alone. Find someone like Alex or myself that really understands what a broken heart feels like. Someone that can absolutely guide you. Worst case scenario, we're at least a huge heart with ears, and we're willing to listen to your story.
And we give ourselves permission to be able to get in there with you.
Yes.
And we're not weirded out about not having a degree or psychology degree and all that. We get in there in the trenches with you, and we give ourselves permission, because we know how magical it is to create that safe, loving space and just be an open ear. Yeah. Just that alone has healed millions of people through the millennials of going through grief.
Absolutely. And what we bring to the table is that we're grievers. We're absolute grievers. We've been through that loss, and we know what that experience is like. I want to talk real quick before we get off and close out here. You and I both have some huge events coming up in the community here. For myself, first off, this Sunday, I have a group of women in business that we're getting it together, and we're honoring the Route 91 women. And we're going to be right here in Valencia. I'm going to post that in the Facebook page. On the 25th of this month, I have an open house for grief recovery. So anyone that's heart is broken, and wants to find out whether this program is for them, that's going to be on the 25th. I'm going to post that. And then you also have a program coming up for parents of teens. Tell me about that.
Well, not just teens. I wrote a book called The Inspirational Parent. It's about conscious parenting. And I created a curriculum, and I'm launching it this weekend here in Santa Clarita. It's a 2-day transformational training. It's going to be a very powerful workshop for any parent that wants to take themselves to the next level. And I share some incredible insight from teenagers from all around the world that I've been working with in training rooms. And I'm giving you some amazing insight about what they want, what they need. I've been hearing their cries, like I said, for over 20 years. And you're going to get some magical ingredients of how to be an effective parent. this
That's
weekend.
so exciting.
yeah.
How exciting is that? Okay, we're going to post all of those events in our Facebook Live so you guys can go there. If you are looking for us, Sharon at SharonBrubaker.com.
Why are you yelling, everybody?
Am I yelling? I got excited. I don't want my phone to ring again.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much. KHTS, your hometown station. We're going to be signing off. It's Sharon and Alex, the Grief and Loss Show. Thank you.